we call the Twilight Zone.
Steve Kerr, and you look at Steph and Clay, and even Draymond with his lack of performance.
He's at 2 in a row, 7 points for him. The twirling Doncic, melting into the defense. The front play strikes. Swing, fly ball, well hit left center. Robert has homer. Rookie rushing record for the Steelers.
Look, he came into this game averaging 3.67 yards per carry. 42nd out of 49 qualified rushers.
Freeze to begin the third quarter. It has been incredible. Here he comes again. Oh, goodness. And a Greek basketball god. And he was a great guy to teach because
Welcome. Normally we call this Town Hall Tuesday, but for today, we are calling it Trade Deadline Tuesday. I am Todd, and with me for this beautiful Tuesday evening, a special guest to Tuesday nights. That's Aaron himself.
How's it going, Todd?
That was a pause for dramatic effect, dude. I'm happy to be here with you.
Yeah,
look, I think we always talk about this
difficulty before we started. My mic stand decided to crap out, so I have a little bit of an awkward setup tonight. We're going to make it work. This little floppy guy right here, but
you'll be all right.
I'm glad it happened offline as opposed to like halfway through the episode. You know,
Nick, thank you for joining in tonight, sir. How are you? So,
Nick.
Aaron, so Nick and his lovely wife Susan actually came up and visited us at our new place for the first time this weekend.
Nice.
So had those two, and Nick, thanks for liking the stream as well, man. Had those two and my mom and my dad up here this weekend, so it was great. Got to actually have some space for people to stay. So where we used to live before, if there were more than an additional 2 people here at our townhouse, it was like, sorry, you got to go to another room. Like you could barely get 6 people in our living room. It was a real pain in the ass. So it was really exciting to have them here. Carp, what's up, buddy? Thanks for liking the stream. How you doing tonight, sir? Thanks for joining in for Trade Deadline Tuesday. The block is hot, ladies and gentlemen. But before we get into it, Aaron, I got to ask you a question. I'm hoping that you're going to say yes to this. Have you watched Yellowstone?
I haven't. No, I know the show. Like it's like what on was it on Paramount or something or
Peacock?
Peacock.
My God, dude. So Bobby's been recommending Yellowstone to me for like 5 or 6 months, right? I'm like, yeah, I'll get to it because I'm not really I'm not a big Western guy. I don't really like Western movies that much. I know that's some people are like, oh God, what a jackass. But I really put it off. Mary and I have watched 3 seasons in probably 5 sittings.
Wow. How long are the episodes?
Like 45 minutes. I mean, when we have sat down and watched this show, it's until like 11 or 12 and going upstairs and being like, as soon as you get home tomorrow, we're going to watch it.
Wow, that's high praise,
dude. It's a good show. So you got Kevin Costner not playing in a baseball movie, which I'm usually not a fan of. But
not even like a little catch with an old leather mitt.
No, nothing sports related so far. I had to make sure I was going to say that right. Yeah, nothing sports related so far, but it is intense. It's a very intense show. A lot of.
Is that because of the camping?
Yes, it's because of the camping.
Intense.
Thank you for a good dad joke. Good dad joke to get into Trade Deadline Tuesday. So I highly recommend it. There is a prequel series that is on Paramount Plus called 1883.
Okay,
it kind of sets up the story for Kevin Costner's family being in Yellowstone and how they get to where they get to, basically.
Was someone who didn't consider himself a big Western fan, but got super into Red Dead Redemption 2 when it came out. I think I could do it.
I think so. Yeah. Look, I think if you could play Red Dead, Yellowstone's kind of a walk in the park. It's a great game. I don't think Rockstar's ever missed on a video game, though, right? Like, let's be clear.
I don't think so.
Every Grand Theft Auto, great. Even like the over-the-top camera Grand Theft Autos are good games.
Do you remember the game Bully?
Of course I do. So if Nick is still watching, we used to bond over that game when we had for PS2, right? That was a PS2 game.
Yeah, I think so. It might have been on a couple other things, but that's what I had it on.
Yeah, but that's what I had it on as well. I've always been a PlayStation man, but we used to play that game, and like it's a great storyline. The side quests are awesome.
Yeah,
that's a great reference. Thank you for sharing, Bully. Carp says Def Jam Vendetta.
Was that Rockstar? I heard it was Rockstar.
No.
I was gonna say. Is that like the fighting game where you had like all the Def Jam rappers?
Yeah.
Good time.
Here's the thing. I'm fairly certain I had that game. I also had the oh man, what was that game called? It basically came out around the same time as like Guitar Hero and Rock Band, where it was just like rap songs and you had a microphone and you would just rap them and you would get scored on it.
I don't know. I remember there was like the disc jockey one where they had like the turntable.
Dude, I had that too.
I didn't have that one.
DJ Hero.
I can actually, so I always hated Rock Band and Guitar Hero because as you can see on the wall there, I play guitar. It is nothing like, so like I'll be playing a song on Guitar Hero and I'm like, I know how to play this song and I can't do it with the buttons. But when they introduced Rock Band and they finally had like the drum set, and then when Guitar Hero finally had like the other instruments, the drums, I can play drums too. Right here's like an electric kit, and the drums are actually pretty dead on. So I always really like doing those ones. But I digress. I don't think this is at all where we were going to go or where we're going to start. But that's the fun thing about this. You never know where it's going to lead. I think we're boring the hell out of your dog, which is good.
Yeah. You start talking about Western TV shows, he really he's out. Immediately loses interest.
That's yeah.
All right, so let's get into it. Let's get into what really for baseball fans they've been following very closely since the All-Star break. Trade deadline ended roughly. Actually, the last transaction went through at 6:32 p.m. So 30 minutes over the deadline, but. Clearly, the big headline from the MLB trade deadline is Juan Soto leaving Washington with Josh Bell, going to the Padres, and really the trade almost being held up by Eric Hosmer. So, Bobby, what's up, man? How you doing? We're just getting into trade deadline Tuesday. If you guys are new to the channel, hit that subscribe bell, hit the subscribe button. And turn on those notifications so you can see us when we go live. Again, biggest trade of the trade deadline, Juan Soto. Bobby Slay liking the stream as well. Fun fact for those of you that don't know, Bobby Slay and Bobby Lehman are actually the same person.
What?
I used to think it was two different people. And then he just had to tell me one. He's like, hey, that's just me, man. Don't worry about it. blew my mind. But yeah, Juan Soto going to the Padres with Josh Bell. The Padres giving up Mackenzie Gore and CJ Abrams, their top two prospects in their system. Mackenzie Gore on the 15-day IL. CJ Abrams just kind of touching the sand at the major league level. But for the Padres, I think the biggest thing for them is, again, Eric Hosmer holding up the trade for a while, ends up being dealt to the Red Sox. Luke Voigt finalizes that trade between Washington and San Diego. But the big thing for them is that they also go out and get arguably the best closer in baseball right now in Josh Hader, right? Sure. So you're looking at a San Diego team that's lacking some one of their superstars of Fernando Tatis Jr., but one of the things that's kind of haunted them over the last 2 years is that their bullpen not being able to go out and finish games. So they do exactly what they need to do. And going and getting Josh Hader. And Bobby asked the question here, is this the first official big three in the new era of baseball? Yeah, I don't think we really haven't seen a trio in a city, at least a trio of position players, right? There's been trios of pitchers over time, right? You think about this A's
the Braves.
Yeah, Smoltz, Glavine, Maddox, right? No particular order because they're all three all-stars.
Right. Or you were just saying the A's. That's another.
Yeah. Yeah. Mulder, Zito, and Hudson in the late 90s, early 2000s. I think position-wise, we've kind of always seen, we've seen like the Bash brothers. You had A-Rod and Griffey in Seattle together. And then Jeter and A-Rod together in New York. But yeah, I think this is the first time you've seen three guys that are worth over $250 million on the same roster, right? I mean, you look at a guy like Juan Soto who turned down $440 million over 14 years from Washington, gets traded to San Diego. And from what I've read, San Diego is willing to put together a $500 million contract for Juan Soto.
Which is wild because as a Cleveland Guardians fan, I was told we're not allowed to participate in this because we're a small market team. San Diego is not a large market. They are going out there and making do, paying the bills and putting their money where their mouth is and striking while the iron's hot. So I think it's good for baseball to see that, it doesn't just have to be the Yankees. It doesn't just have to be the Red Sox or, whatever big market team is going to put the money up for these superstar players. San Diego by no stretch is in the same class market wise as those teams. So good for them, man. I mean, good for the fans. I've always been a huge fan of that ballpark. So, it'll be interesting to, kind of see how that shakes out. But as we know in baseball, just because you spend the most amount of money doesn't guarantee you anything.
Sure. Look at the Mets.
Yeah. I mean, it oftentimes puts you in a really good position, but, we'll have to see how that kind of shakes out. And, Soto is a great player. But we'll have to see kind of how all those pieces fit together, where he fits in that lineup. All of those guys can deservingly be, the three batter on a good team.
Right.
Who's going to be batting where and exactly how that kind of shakes out.
Yeah. So I think another part of this trade for the Padres that works out really well is that Josh Bell is having a 2017, 2018 year again for Washington, hitting over 300, close to 20 home runs. Whereas, getting rid of Hosmer, who really hasn't lived up to the contract that San Diego delved out to him a couple years ago at 8 years, $144 million, all of it guaranteed. So they bring in Luke Voit from New York last year at the trade deadline, trying to get some added depth to first base, trying to get some heavy swings in there. And then Luke Voit doesn't perform as well. So I like San Diego's route of, again, like you said, strike while the iron's hot, get the hottest hitters on your team. There was a lot of speculation that Soto was going to end up in a Cardinals uniform. And really leading up to last night around 10 o'clock, they were the leading candidate. And then you heard the Padres were putting together this huge package for Juan Soto. And the Josh Bell part to me really surprised me, because I think that, what Washington is getting in return still doesn't quite meet the value that San Diego brings for the short term. Right. So San Diego's, is right now in the second wild card spot. They very likely end up in the second wild card spot, because it's either going to be the Braves or the Mets in that first wild card spot. Whoever doesn't win the NL East gets that first slot. But San Diego now has the ability to get pretty damn close to LA out there, seeing, kind of where get their feelers out and trying to make a playoff push with arguably the best young player in baseball. I think there's a lot of people out there that would tell you that Juan Soto's, is the best player in baseball overall and has the largest upside. And he's matched with, when he's healthy, the second brightest future in Fernando Tatis Jr. So really, really interesting for Juan Soto to land there, especially we're talking about the Padres. You said it too. It feels weird to talk about San Diego making big money moves, but they've been doing it for the last 3 years. So, it's very, very interesting. So I think what most of the people that are watching want to talk about is they want to talk about the Reds, right?
Sure.
Everybody, it's
Castillo
sell the team
on the move.
It's sell the team Bob season, and we saw 5 Reds players get traded up to the trade deadline. 6 if you're including Philip Deal, who wasn't technically on the active roster. So we saw Naquin being traded to the Mets for 2 young prospects, both of those guys being in either an extended rookie class or low A ball. You also had, again, you just said Luis Castillo and a big package deal going to the Mariners for 3 of the top 10 prospects that Seattle had in their farm system. Tommy Pham being dealt to the Red Sox for either cash considerations or a player to be named later. Tyler Mahle being moved to the Twins for 3 of the top 20 prospects for the Twins. And then to round that out, Brandon Drury being traded to the Padres as well for a top 10 prospect in San Diego. So, Aaron, I know you're a Cleveland guy, but we're in the same sinking. Well, Cleveland's winning, but we're in the same ship in terms of being a small market team. So I'm interested to hear your stance on what this looks like, or what Reds fans should expect when you see kind of the move in the top names for prospects. What's that look like to you?
Yeah, I mean, Cleveland's been winning. I mean, they're sitting at second in the Central, and basically since we've had Francona, we've never finished below 500, which is great. He's kind of like the Mike Tomlin of your baseball. It doesn't really matter how the roster is. They're going to be competitive. But we didn't do anything today. We didn't make a single move. So, they're obviously happy with standing pat. And I understand it. We have a lot of, really good prospects. You don't want to just, they probably don't think this is the year that they can really contend. And I can understand that, outside of, Jose Ramirez and a few other guys that are playing really well, you kind of have a team that's just like, they're fine. But in terms of being a small market, it can be a little bit frustrating. And we talk about this when we compare baseball to the other sports, especially when it comes to trades and transactions, is, whether it's giving up prospects for proven guys now or, trading big names for prospects, you're not really going to see the fruits of those labors in terms of the trade for, 2, 3, 4 years until you can really grade these things. So for the small market teams, it's about, restocking your cupboard and for the Reds, that's obviously what their agenda was here today. And there's nothing wrong with that. But from a Reds fan standpoint and just instant gratification that fans want to see, you never see MLB teams don't trade for picks. They trade for prospects. Right. So, you can in basketball or football trade for picks, and then you can at least kind of track it a little bit and be like, oh, they're on a losing streak. That's good. That's good for us, kind of thing. In baseball, it's just kind of a wait and see thing. Like I remember when the Indians at the time it was Bartolo Colon, and it was like, all right, well that sucks. And we ended up with, it was Grady Sizemore, Cliff Lee, and Brandon Phillips, but who the fuck knew who any of those people were when that trade happens? Or, right. Or we traded CC Sabathia for a guy and a player to be named later if they made the playoffs, and that was Michael Brantley. You know what I mean? Right. Like those things happen all the time. You just never know. So it's cool that, if you're going to lose, you might as well, cash in your chips, if you will. And like I said, restock the cupboards. But, from a Reds fans perspective, there's really nothing to be excited about today. That can all change though.
Sure. So I think I'm gonna stick this comment on here, and I think that's kind of the message I've seen all day. Reds are really good at developing players for other teams. So for any Reds fan that is watching right now, don't be excited about 2022. Right, we're already seeing that. Don't be excited for 23, and don't be excited for 24. This is an organization that has set themselves up to realign with what they're going to do in the future, right? So one of the things, through all of these trades, and the last part of it being they got Austin Romine, a veteran catcher, to kind of fill the second catcher spot with Stevenson going in and out all year. They traded for 10 minor league players, Romine, and then a player to be named later. Every single position player except for one of them is a shortstop. So there were a lot of people where the question was, what are you going to do with all these shortstops? What are you going to do with 7 shortstops or third basemen or whatever the answer is? Well, the average age of these shortstops is like 20, right? So it's not like it's 7 shortstops or third basemen that are in AA or AAA ball that are waiting to make their debut. 6 of these 7 guys are below high A ball, right? Or at high A ball. So, no, they're not going to all play shortstop, right, when they get to the next level. And yes, some of these guys are not going to make it on a Reds roster. But the idea when you're in a rebuild, which is what the Reds are in now, right? It's not a win now. It's a win later, much later if you're Cincinnati, is that you go out and get best available, right? So if you're I don't know, let's say that you're the Chiefs and you don't really need anything necessarily on the offensive side of the ball, but you're at the end of the second round and there's a wide receiver who was on the big board in the first round still available, you go and get that wide receiver because they're the best player available, right? That's how that works. It's very similar to what the Reds are doing in a mode to rebuild where you're not willing to spend money. You go out and get the best athletes available at what teams are willing to provide to you. Of those 10 guys, 3 of them are in the top 100 for the MLB pipeline. So if you are Cincinnati, you're at least going out and getting people that already have recognition to their name on being able to get to the next, or have the ability to get to the next level. Most of these guys have an ETA of 24, 25, like I said. So if you're a Reds fan and you want immediate gratification, you're not going to get that right now. You just keep telling the Castellini family to sell the team because it's going to be losing records for at least the next 2 years, maybe in 2024 when some of these guys that they've signed and picked over the last couple of years get ready. Maybe they could pop up and surprise some people in the NL Central just because the NL Central is so bad right now. But it's not going to be win. We're not going to see a winning record for a while. You're not going to see a lot of names that you, as a Reds fan, are acclimated to or know well enough, right? I mean, we went into the season with Brandon Drury being one of the starting position players, and he really, to me, returned the second best prospect that the Reds got out of this from San Diego, and the Reds paid $900,000 for him. So, moral of the story is, if you're a Reds fan, you're probably just going to keep complaining, right? That's just kind of where we're at right now. You're just going to keep bitching about how bad the Reds are and how you don't know who anybody is on their active roster. You're going to have to continue to complain about how bad Aquino is at the plate because he's going to keep staying on the Reds roster for the next couple of years. You're going to have to bitch about Moustakas being hurt all the time and still being on the Reds roster. You're going to complain about Joey Votto not being traded 4 years ago. It is what it is. You're going to be in a losing city for a little while longer, and just remember, football season's always right around the corner once the All-Star breaks around. Carl, thanks for liking the stream.
Let's go, Carl. I mean, it's really the story of half the teams today, right? I mean, it's the buyers and the sellers. Like, the buyers are feeling really good because they got, players to go into this stretch run of baseball and contend. And it's really how the league operates, where it's not very often, like we're saying, the Guardians, like it's not, although they have a chance to sneak into the playoffs, they're not going to make any noise because they didn't really do anything to bolster that roster. If they were a team that didn't need to make any moves, they would be in a much better situation right now where their record would indicate, we don't need to make it. But those are the teams that end up doing it because, you want to, when you're in this situation, put yourself in the best position to achieve that World Series. So, I mean, half the teams here today are sitting and going, well, the season's over. And probably most of them already knew that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like the record is already, is what it is. Obviously there's still a little bit of time in baseball. But like we just said, when football starts coming around, that's when we know baseball's starting to wind down a little bit. So, it sucks for some of those teams, but also at the same time, when you're building a franchise like that, this is kind of the way that baseball operates. You're going to get guys that have really, really high ceilings and really, really long team control. And for small market teams, that's how you capitalize on your windows, is by having all of these top 100 prospects that you have 7 years of team control control them through arbitration, and hopefully, win that ring before you have to start paying a lot of these guys.
Sure. And again, just like anything else in the world, baseball is business. At the end, it is a source. It's a great source of entertainment, but at the end of the day, the Reds are a business, and the objective of a business is to capitalize on making as much money as possible. And I'm saying that not necessarily agreeing with the circumstance that we're in, right? But for Reds fans, a not so distant memory is that they went out after the 2019 season and they put together pieces to get better, right? They went out and got Sonny Gray. They went out and got Trevor Bauer. They went out and got Akiyama. They got Moose. They made sure they kept Votto. They had really all the pieces there going into that 2020 season. And COVID happened. Yes, it sucked, but the Reds also made it to the playoffs that year and scored 0 runs and had 3 hits in 2 games against the Braves. One of the starters being a rookie who had less than 10 starts going into the playoffs.
Right.
So the attempt to win now happened. It didn't work out. And when you are a smaller market team like this, these are the ramifications of it, right? We saw the Marlins do it twice in 10 years, right? They won the World Series in 97. They had a losing record for the next 6 years. And then in 2003, they won the World Series again because all their young talent that they had traded for or drafted whatever circumstance they got them, they all came together at the same time and they won. Tampa Bay's done the same thing, right? So if you're a Reds fan, that's kind of what you have to bank on, is that some of these young guys are gonna sync up in the minor leagues, in the farm system, and then figure out, and by 2024 they're all ready to go, right? Or they're on the cusp of it. You get the chemistry together in 24, and then 25 is when kind of the stars align, right?
Right. So
I look at the trade like a Luis Castillo trade, where the Reds get back 3 of the top 10 prospects from the Mariners. There was 4 players in total. This is identical to the Chris Archer trade when he was on Tampa and he was traded to the Pirates, right? The Tampa Bay got Tyler Glasnow and Austin Meadows in the return of that trade. Within 5 years, they were AL East champions and ALCS champions back-to-back years, right? So things do work out. If you are doing your scouting right and you're rebuilding the foundation, the idea is that when you make these trades for big names, that you're getting a 3-for-1 deal or a 4-for-1 deal, whatever the player may be, so that the foundation gets a little bit stronger. But it also takes time to build the house, right? So you don't put the roof on before you put the foundation on. You got to get the foundation underneath you first. So
right. Well, you better not.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't build homes, but that's just purely perspective and basic science, I think. I mean, gravity exists in the world, right? So I don't know. But Ryan, with a couple comments here. Ryan, do you have a question that I think Aaron and I are going to discuss here in a second? But he said, Jonathan India makes me happy until he gets traded, even though he's from Florida. If Corey were here right now, he'd tell you to bite your tongue, because that's a Gator boy and Corey's a Gator boy. So I like Jonathan India too. I think that for me, and Bobby and I have talked about this pretty extensively, he's kind of he's the centerpiece of the Reds rebuild. So if you're going to build a team around somebody, build it around the NL Rookie of the Year, right? That's where I see him. He's a guy that is going to put up consistent numbers. He's good for social media because he's got the flow. He wears the chains, and he's a good face for a franchise, right? So you build around him and Stevenson. You allow the 1-year deals or the Kyle Farmers of the Reds to work through their contracts. And then you wait for your 19s and 20-year-olds to be 22 or 23, and they're ready to take big league hacks. So
right.
But the question that Ryan asked, and I'm interested to hear your perspective on it first, Aaron, because you're a man of sports and business.
Yes.
Should there be caps on baseball?
I think in theory it makes sense, but the players would never go for it because then you're just taking money out of their pockets. I think there should maybe be like a luxury tax similar to in the NBA And I don't necessarily think there should be a hard cap. What I really think the MLB needs to institute is a floor, because you have all of these teams that are spending like $29 million. You have some people or some teams that are spending almost as much as some teams are spending on a single player. And that's just not fair to the fan base. So I think there should maybe be a luxury tax where after you get over maybe like 200 million or something like that a year, that's when you have to start paying X amount of dollars over the fact. And then that might incentivize, a little bit more competitive balance. But before we even get there, I would love to see a salary cap floor to where a team has to spend that much money, or you have to spend that. And then it basically just gets divided up amongst the players on the team.
Yeah. So it's funny that you bring that up. So before the 2022 season started, there were actually there were 4 teams that were spending less on their entire 26-man roster than the Mets were on Max Scherzer. It's now down to 3. One of those teams being the Guardians before they restructured Jose Ramirez.
Yeah.
But the Orioles, the A's, and the Pirates are spending less money on their total roster than Max Scherzer is being paid for this season, right? So that's $43 million for this first year of his 3-year deal. I like the idea of a floor more than I do a cap, right?
I do too.
I think that it prevents the tanking, right? And a lot of the things that happened through the collective bargaining agreement getting into the season and why things were delayed is because players themselves were trying to avoid franchises being allowed to tank, right? Controlling money for players specifically on their call-up date, right? I think the best example of that is Vladdy Guerrero Jr.'s rookie year. He didn't get called up until, I believe it was like May 18th or 20th, because they would have had to pay him $800,000 instead of the $275 for the rookie minimum. So, I think that a part of what baseball needs to do to make the game more exciting for all fan bases is to create a hard floor for teams to spend. And it's not going to be like you got to spend $200 million on your 26-man roster, but it can't
seems
be
fair. If you're an owner and you can't spend $50 million a year on payroll, you shouldn't be an owner and you should be forced to sell the team.
Right. So I think that's funny that you say that, because that was one of the things that back when the season was delayed, I had said to Bobby when we were talking about this, is if you can't use your assets available to put together a 26-man roster that is worth at least $50 million. And again, there's no revenue sharing, but you can only guess what a team makes in a 81, let's call it 82 game home season, right? Because you're not making as much money on the road as you do when you're putting asses in the seats. But for a team like the Pirates, right, who are spending $42 million on their entire 26-man roster, for a fan base as loyal as Pittsburgh has, you're telling me that you can't spend another $20 million to not be the revolving door for the National League? Because that's really what they've been, right? And I use them in the Chris Archer deal, which is arguably one of the worst trades that we've seen in the 21st century. But since that transaction and since they've got rid of Kutch, like they haven't made any moves to get any better, and they're consistently either second to last or last in the NL Central, But I guess the caveat to that is that people are still going to watch games on the Allegheny River because it's such a beautiful stadium. People want to go to PNC Park because it looks cool. So, but yeah,
and how much did the fans subsidize for that stadium? You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
How much are fans paying willingly or not? And actually not even fans. Like there are people that wouldn't even consider themselves sports fans that are still footing a bill. And these owners don't even have the ability to put together, I don't even have to say the most competitive roster in the world, but basically in baseball, you have the guys who are making ridiculous money, like just complete lineage changing money where your entire bloodline is now taken care of.
Sure.
And then there really isn't that much of a middle class. And then you have all of these minor league players that are, or guys on rookie contracts, basically, that are making barely anything. So there's just this absolute void of the middle class in the MLB. And basically the owners are controlling that economy to basically push that down. Yeah, the really, really good players are going to get paid. But what about the middle of the road guys that are basically getting frozen out because there's only so many teams that have deep pockets and there's only so many starting positions, in the league. So if you're the 18th best catcher in the league, well, too bad you're making $2.5 million.
Right. And Ryan made the comment.
Don't get me wrong, that's a lot of money to you and I. But
sure. But in the baseball entertainment world, that's small potatoes, right?
Exactly.
But Ryan said basically the same exact thing you just said. There just should be a higher minimum for minor league players, right? There should be more money. Because again, a single A player or a low A ball player during the season makes about $300 a week.
Yeah. Not good.
I made more. For what it's worth, I'm pretty sure when I was working at Kroger during college, I made more money than that a week.
Now, those guys do get significant signing bonuses.
Yeah, if you're a first or second round pick.
Yeah, I know. That's fair.
What about so my thing is like, what about the guy that gets drafted in the 22nd round who is 18, just graduated high school, doesn't have the scholarship opportunity to go play baseball at the D1 level. JUCOs have kind of closed the door on him because he wouldn't commit to anything, and that's his only choice. Then yeah, he's stuck making $300 a week during the season and then traveling the other 5 months of the year. Whereas what you just said, a guy like Juan Soto is going to make $48 million a year. That disparity is unbelievable.
That's why I was honestly kind of pissed he won the home run derby. Because
because you want Julio to win, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, he would have got $1 million bonus, and the guy was making $700,000 a year versus a guy who's just like, fuck off, I don't need $400 million.
Yeah, right.
So, but like, bro, give it to the guy who like actually could have, needed it. Not again and again. I know $700,000 a year would be fantastic. I'd be living great. I'd be doing well. I'd have a boat, but like I don't. And it's really just all relative at that point. And, again, the best players are going to get paid the most amount of money. We understand that. But I really do think that the owners, you're a Reds fan, I'm a Guardians fan. And when your owners are just like, I'm not going to pay for shit, it's really, really demoralizing.
Sure.
As a fan, because like, I want my team to do well. And no, I don't need them to have the Yankees payroll, but like, a functional, just be in the middle of the pack. Like,
right.
Let's maybe get some free agents. Let's maybe make some trades. Let's maybe be competitive. The only time that's ever happened is when the Indians missed the World Series. And then they were like, all right, we're going to pay Encarnacion $100 million over 5 years. Like that was like the biggest thing. That was the largest free agency, Edwin Encarnacion. And it was a really big deal because we were like, holy shit, we just got a guy who hits like 40 home runs. We just paid some money, a pretty big missing piece in the lineup. And, they were very, very competitive and they were very good. And again, the Guardians, and it sounds just like with the Reds, we have a really, really good front office. They're really good at developing talent. They're very good at, finding voids in the market and making really, really good trades, turning a depreciating asset of Corey Kluber into Class A, who, for my money is the best closer in the league, but that doesn't matter. Is great. Like they're really good at making those type of moves. And again, having Tito has been phenomenal because even at our worst, we're still pretty good. There's just something about that guy who just knows how to get the most out of his team. And, it was interesting that the Guardians finally were able to re-sign a guy like Jose Ramirez, but he left like $100 million on the table. He could have gone out and just made a shitload of money. And he's like, no, I want to stay in Cleveland, which is awesome from a fan to hear, but no play. Like that's such an exception to the rule that it's almost amazing that it happened.
Yeah. I would argue that Jose Ramirez as a star, right? Cause he's a multiple time all-star who has proven himself in today's game, is one of less than 1% of stars in professional baseball that would leave money on the table.
Right.
I don't know if there is anybody else. Right.
I'm trying to think of another one.
there has really, in our timeline, dude, there hasn't really been anybody that's been like, you know what, I'm going to stay here. I'll take less money, at least in baseball, right? We've seen it in basketball. You see it in football.
Yeah, but
Brady did it for
it's usually after someone's already made their money or gotten their rings. You know
sure,
what I mean?
Sure.
Or they're like, okay, I would rather play for a competitor or a guy at the end of his career who hasn't won a ring, and he's like, I'll play on a veteran minimum because I already have 12 cars and a pool and a beautiful mansion, and I'm set.
Robert Horry, right?
Yeah,
Robert Horry got all of his rings because he just was willing to go anywhere for cheap.
Well, Robert Horry was also, he was an amazing piece for a championship team, but Robert Horry, if you made him the second or third best guy on a team, that's a team that misses. That's a team that misses the playoffs.
Right. I think Robert Horry is one of those guys, and I always bring him up when you talk about like guys that just, because if you look at players with the most rings, Robert Horry is right there at the top of the list because everywhere he went, they won rings, and this dude was somehow involved in making a clutch shot at the end of a playoff game that was a crucial game, or when he was on the Lakers, he made a shot that won them a game in the NBA Finals. Like he found a way to make it there. But my point being that Jose Ramirez as a whole, you look at a guy like that, you don't see that in baseball. The loyalty to a franchise has changed because baseball has turned into such a large disparity from the Mary likes the stream. Mary, I hope you're doing okay upstairs. Hope everything's okay. I hope I'm not being too loud.
We love Marys on this podcast. It's a very pro Mary podcast.
Yeah, so especially the two guys on the screen.
Yeah,
because we're big both fans. Yeah, we're either married or going to be married to a Mary. So
that's a lot of Mary in a sentence. Married to Marys.
I had to make sure that I was getting it all out correctly, but
great.
Thank you so much. But yeah, so I think that we've seen such a large shift of team loyalty to money chasing because baseball has lost the ability to have the small market be a desirable destination.
Sure.
Right? Because Francisco Lindor, right, had great years in Cleveland, but he was willing to go to New York in a heartbeat.
Right. Of course.
Right? Because
we were never going to pay.
Right. So even Scherzer wins a ring in Washington. What does he do? He goes and gets traded to the Dodgers, and then he signs the largest year-to-year pitcher contract we've ever seen. So yeah, it's baseball has changed to the point now where you're always going to see two of the top four big market teams in the playoffs year over year. And if you're a small market fan, if you're making a push like the Twins are this year, right? The Twins are on top of the AL Central. The Guardians are right there behind them. You're really excited, but your hopes are very low because when Minnesota or Cleveland goes in to play a best of 7 against the Yankees, which is what they would draw, right? If you're the second AL wildcard piece, you're probably not going to beat them in a best of 7. So then your road ends there. And then if you do, it's the story of the fall for you. But that's so few and far between now. And we're seeing the same teams kind of recycle through the playoffs that for a smaller market, you get really frustrated that, the money's not being spent and the talent's being traded away. Or if it does pan out, it gets traded away as soon as they touch a professional stadium. So it is what it is. That's the world that we live in. For small market fans, I'm sorry, you're stuck, right? If you're a Reds fan, I've said it multiple times. I committed to being an Oakland A's fan a couple years ago after the Reds lost to the Braves. I talked to Bobby on the phone. I was like, my heart can't handle this anymore. You
decided to go somewhere else that's just going to give you just as much problems.
Yes, that's what Bobby said too. He's like, well, if you go to Oakland, you're going to be equally frustrated, if not more frustrated.
Right.
And I was like, I can't be like, oh, I'm a Mets fan now, right? Can't do that. It's not my blood. So here I am, stuck being a Reds fan for the rest of my life.
We talked about this on one of the other podcasts too. It was last week when we were talking to the guys at Second and Victory. Like, who are your sports teams and why are they your sports teams? And I'm a Cleveland fan through and through. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter. I can have a passing interest or I was rooting for the Bucks in the playoffs, right? Just because I like Giannis. I don't lose sleep when they lose. Like, it's just a different level of fandom. And it's just one of those things that I was born into. So I just don't really know how to shift my fandom towards anywhere else.
Right.
So I'm going to continuously root for the Guardians. We've had some really good, moments. Obviously 2016 sticks out where we were, that close to winning the World Series. And, basically it's kind of like here's a good analogy. Being a fan of a minor league, or not a minor league, a small market team is like waiting for a comet, right? And every 6 years it's going to come around, but oh shit, it's cloudy out that day, so we missed it. Like, that's what 2016 was, being an Indians fan.
Sure.
Because all of the stars came together, and all of those trades of unloading your Manny Ramirez, your CC Sabathias, your Jim Thome, you know what I mean? Like, getting rid of all of these guys that have been amazing players for you over the years, to stock up this war chest of young prospects, and then making a couple moves, grabbing a Jay Bruce, grabbing an Adam Miller or Andrew Miller. Those are the type of moves that you can afford to make at that position, because you're like, oh shit, we're actually on the fucking doorstep. And then as that comet's just coming around to Earth, it's cloudy out and we missed it. That's the analogy I'll make as a small market baseball fan.
Man. If Trevor Bauer wouldn't have had that bloody hand, who knows what would have happened? Or the bloody pinky.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of shit that year. It was Trevor Bauer, and then Carlos Carrasco got injured 2 weeks before the playoffs. We were hobbling in, but we had a really, really great team. But yeah. Yeah.
Brian, thanks for liking the stream. He said, Who day. Brian, so here's the deal. So just so you guys are all aware, tomorrow we will be premiering a new series. Dingers, Dunks, and Drives. It'll still be here on Rally Towel Sports, but we teamed up with Tommy Talks Bills of the Bills Mafia Sports Report. We'll share some more information with you guys tomorrow, but you're going to see kind of a new format. So fortunately for us, all four of us are going to be on the podcast tomorrow, which I always get super excited about, because I love when the four of us get in here and just it's bound that two of the four of us get into an argument and the other two start laughing. It's one of my favorite things about.
I think we've only done it once before.
Yeah, so this will be the, I think it's the third time. I think we've done it two other times, but super excited for it. Make sure you guys are tuning in tomorrow at 8:30. Big one tomorrow. Yeah, so we're going to be talking some football tomorrow, Brian. Some very relevant topics to the NFL, if you kind of catch what I'm throwing at you there. So
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know you don't, but everyone else does. So make sure y'all are tuning in tomorrow at 8:30. Stay tuned tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon for where to find us, when to tune in, or if because we're on Twitter now, guys. And if you're on Twitter and you want to, you're following along to Rappaport, what Schefter's tweeting out, and you want to watch some sports, you can watch us on Rally Towel Sports on Twitter. So make sure you're tuning in tomorrow.
Yeah, please tune in tomorrow. It's going to be a huge show. And we're really excited about it.
Yep. All right, Aaron, Ryan's question to you: who's your favorite former Cleveland Indian?
You say former. So here's the thing. I mean, the answer.
I'm sorry, he didn't say former. He just said favorite Cleveland Indian. I apologize.
Can I give a couple? Because it's kind of hard. Because especially just this past, you have to say Ramirez, just because of what he did. Like, no one has ever done that as being an Indian or Guardian. It's just never happened. So we fucking love Jose Ramirez. He is the talk of the town. Everyone around here loves him. He's great. But there's not really that nostalgia to it yet, right?
Sure.
So the 90s Indians were some of the best baseball that I've ever been able to witness. And even when I lived in Chicago, my family was from Cleveland, and obviously we moved back here. I was born here. Even when we were in Chicago, we were huge Indians fans. Like my family was all about it. We watched all the games. all that we could, but they were a really good team. They were on a lot. Jim Thome is going to be one that comes to mind instantly, just because, he was farm boy who hit 600 dingers, like pretty cool. Also,
he was a bopper.
We call him Uncle Sean. He's technically what you would call my step grandpa. My grandma remarried. He's not technically my grandfather, but he's like 20 years younger than my grandma. Like, my grandma just straight up robbed the cradle. Just an absolute badass lady. But he worked downtown at Fat Fish Blue. He was the head chef there for a really, really long time. And Jim Thome used to come in after the games. It was right next to the stadium. And you can talk to people all around Cleveland, and there is not a single person that would say a bad word about Jim Thome. By all accounts, was just salt of the earth, nicest guy. He'd always come to the bar. He'd talk to my Uncle Sean and just, be the nicest guy ever, very generous tipper, very, approachable, very great. So Jim Thome always comes to mind. More recently, and I saw Ryan also made the comment about Grady Sizemore. Yeah, we love Grady Sizemore. It just didn't really work out. He's just a little too injured, but really, really exciting. Kind of same thing with like Travis Hafner. Honestly, Corey Kluber is a big one. CC Sabathia. But I would probably say Corey Kluber of like the recent, just because he was all business. I like my baseball players that are just all business. He, 2 Cy Youngs, completely dominant in his time, like, just phenomenal to watch. We've had some really, really good pitching over the years. Obviously between Coco Crisp. Yeah. Coco Crisp Coco Crisp had a cooler name than he was really good, though. Like, it was just kind of cool to. He was fine.
Switch hitting leadoff hitter that could fly.
But you're talking about you're talking about a team that used to have Kenny Lofton. He wasn't Kenny Lofton.
That's fair.
That's the thing. So like the 90s Indians, man, Jim Thome, Manny Ramirez, Kenny Lofton, Omar Vizquel, Sandy Alomar, Roberto
David Justice,
Albert
Bell,
Carlos Baerga, Albert Bell. Like, we're talking some heavy hitters. And there's a really, really long list. It's amazing that they never were able to complete that. The 96 lockout kind of fucked us a little bit too. We made the World Series in 95 and 97. I think we would have won that year. But I digress. And at least in my lifetime, although it was not with the Indians, I got my championship with the Cavs. So I've always been a sport, not a complainer, but how you make, I'm not a religious person, but you know how you make your little deals with like whatever's out there.
Sure.
I made a bet with the universe that if you give me one championship before I die, I'll stop actively complaining about sports or being cursed or being, and I've lived, obviously, in the moment you can be upset about things or be disappointed. But every time something terrible happens, I go, all right, well, I got to go to a parade with like 3 million people. That was pretty dope. And I got to witness a championship of my lifetime. That's pretty cool. But there's a lot of really good Cleveland baseball players that I've had in my lifetime. So those are a few, but if I had to pick just one, I'd probably give it to Thome.
That's fair. That's not a bad selection there. I'm personally a big Travis Hafner fan. I loved watching that dude.
Pronk?
Yeah, I love watching that dude. He swung a fucking like caveman stick.
Yeah, he looked like a caveman.
Yeah, when we were watching baseball at that point in time, and I swing a bat left-handed as well. So watching Hafner was so fundamental to kind of learning the short power swing, because he has his reaction time from step to contact was so succinct. Yeah. And when he was able to get an inside fastball, how quick he was able to turn on an inside fastball and just be able to hit it 450 feet. Like, that dude was really special. And I think
he never got any cheap home runs. They were second deckers
but the thing about him that I really like is that he wasn't he wouldn't fit today's mold of a power hitter, because he didn't really strike out a ton. Now, when you're when you're swinging as hard as he was, you're going to strike out sometimes, right? And I say
he struck out a good amount, but I know what you mean. He wasn't like Adam Dunn or
it's not Adam Dunn, it's not Joey Gallo, it's not Aaron Judge or Baez where you're striking out 200 times a year. It's a guy that was going to go out and hit 35 to 40 home runs, knock in 100 runs, probably get you damn near 30 doubles as well, and you didn't have to worry about him in the field because at first base he was an absolute liability. You could barely field a ground ball, but you could throw him at DH for 145 games a year, 140 games a year, and let the dude do his damn thing. Yeah,
for sure.
I loved Hafner. I loved watching him like early in his career where he wasn't quite big, and then like 2 years into his career, I did. So for anybody that's wondering how our group chat goes, this is it. You guys are looking at it.
Yeah.
These are the kind of conversations we have.
There's some sports mixed in. Just a little bit.
Not a lot. It's mostly dicks. So if you're wondering, like, how do we prepare for an episode? What are we doing to try to get better? That's it. Talk about dicks.
It's great.
And it's a perfect transition because right now we're going to talk about the most valuable franchise in the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys, weighing in at $7.64 billion, if I'm not mistaken. Caroline liking the stream. Caroline. Yeah, so I believe, was it yesterday that they came out with the earnings or the evaluations for the NFL, and Dallas came weighing in at damn near $8 billion in an evaluation of a franchise. And I'm just interested to hear your perspective of that because I love the sports business mind that you have. I'm interested to hear your perspective of this.
Well, kids nowadays want to talk about GameStop stock or cryptocurrency. Jerry Jones bought the Cowboys for $150 fucking million. It's worth $8 billion fucking dollars now. That is called an investment. I think he bought it in 1989, and it's insane. Obviously, we've seen the way that the NFL has completely skyrocketed in valuations. I remember when the Browns got sold. I want to say it was for $2 billion. Give me 1 second. I can look it up real quick, but that's kind of neither here nor there. But I remember everyone being like, "Oh, that's a lot of money, especially for a team that's terrible." The NFL shares all their money. You basically own it to understand the fact that you're never going to operate at a loss. And obviously the Cowboys are the big name, or kind of like the Yankees of football, if you will, where it's more about the logo than it is about the product on the field. Although obviously the Yankees are doing well this year. Cowboys haven't really done a lot in the recent history. You would think a team like, if Brady was still on the Patriots, or when Brady was on the Patriots, like that team would be worth, so much money because of all the championships that they've won. Cowboys have done an amazing job of marketing their team and selling themselves as America's team. You watch a 4:00 game on Fox on Sunday.
Jordan liking the stream. What's up, Jordan? How you doing, buddy?
Let's go, Jordan. It's going to be the Cowboys. The Cowboys are going to be on at 4:30 on Sunday, and I don't care who they're playing against, but that's who's playing. They're the team people love to hate, and Jerry Jones is kind of an idiot in my opinion, at least in terms of I don't really like owners that think they can run the football side of things. But you really can't argue with the business side of things.
So that's the thing, right? So if you are not a Cowboys fan, there's no ounce of you that likes the Cowboys, right? Because I think anytime somebody is dubbed America's team, such as the Yankees or the Cowboys, or even one point in time it was the Knicks or America's basketball team, it's really, really hard to like the Cowboys. And it's even harder to like Jerry Jones because you see the interviews that Jerry Jones puts together, and you just hear the shit that he does, and you're like, that's just a greasy old man.
Yeah.
But I mean, the dude's you call him a business mogul, right? Right. That's your franchise is worth almost $8 billion, and it's the next closest NFL franchise, at least, is the Rams at $5.91 million. But a lot of that is backed by them owning SoFi and being able to utilize SoFi as a place for people to play sporting events, i.e. the Chargers, right? They're paying the Rams to use their stadium. The Galaxy are paying the Rams to use their stadium. Multiple bowl games are played at SoFi. They're going to be playing an outdoor basketball game at SoFi starting in the next couple of years. So
the World Cup.
Yes, thank you. The World Cup. I was getting there. So
my bad.
No, you're fine. So the Rams are doing they're building theirs off of real estate, right? The Rams are the backbone of the dollar amount, but then all their profit or all the additional revenue is made through the leasing or the renting of the stadium. The Cowboys just have $8 billion.
Right.
There's not a lot of...
It's theoretical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they do and they don't.
Right. And they still do a lot with the new Cowboys stadium. I mean, you put a 2-mile long Jumbotron in. There's going to be... I mean, they play the highest level of the Texas State Championship game, high school championship game there, just like they did when they showed, like, Friday Night Lights was going on, right? That's the mecca. Is you go to Fort Worth and you play at the Jumbotron Stadium and shit goes crazy. Or There was just a really popular Twitch streamer that did sounds stupid, a hide and seek inside Cowboy Stadium. Okay. Right. And he paid like $200,000, or his company paid like $200,000 to rent out the stadium for the day to do this.
Like you said, it's the real estate of it.
Yeah.
And it was interesting when you talked about like SoFi. This is a little bit of a tangent. We can get right back to this, but have you ever seen the movie The Founder?
Yes.
So you know exactly what I'm talking about. So Ray Kroc, like this is like how McDonald's became like who they are. And Ray Kroc basically stole the idea of McDonald's under the guise of, I'm just going to buy the land underneath the restaurant rather than buy out. And then he basically just bought out McDonald's, and he's like, I invented McDonald's. And even though he didn't. So it's an interesting business practice. That's for sure. But it's just interesting because like right when you're saying that, I just started thinking about Ray Kroc for some reason.
Well, no, because you're thinking about people who the ways of
it's the long view of it. It's very easy to be like, I'm just going to own an NFL team,
right?
And that's it. You could like Jordan just said here, like I feel like just being an NFL team makes it profitable. It does. If you somehow have the capital to purchase an NFL team, you can literally sit on your balls and make money. You don't have to do anything else. All you have to do is own it, hand the keys off to somebody else, and go fuck off. And you're turning a profit.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is, and we're talking about Jerry Jones, and I think he's a little insufferable personally. But again, if I had that kind of money, people would probably think I'm insufferable. People think I'm insufferable, and I have no money. So, but like
nobody likes me, and I'm poor. So whatever.
I think back to the COVID draft when I think about this. So Bill Belichick is doing it from his house in his fucking kitchen with like 90s wicker chairs. And it doesn't look like he's redecorated that thing in 30 years, which, hey, God bless him, whatever. I know he makes a bunch of money. I'm sure he's a really big New England house. Jerry Jones is doing his draft on a fucking yacht next to models. And I don't know, Todd, I don't know how familiar you are with United States geography. Dallas, not a yachting place.
No. It's traditionally not where you find yachts. Not at least where I've been to Dallas, and I don't remember being anywhere near an area. And Mary, if you're still watching, you can correct me if I'm wrong because she was there with me. I don't remember being anywhere and being like, oh, that's a good place to take a yacht.
How funny would that be though if that was just like parked in his driveway?
It wasn't really a yacht. It was just a big green screen. He just invested in a 200.
No, he just had his yacht parked in his driveway. And he's like, well, we can just go in there and do it, and it'll look badass as shit on television.
I think it's so funny that you bring up the Belichick thing because he caught so much heat for doing that. There were so many people in NFL Twitter talking shit about Belichick living in like the cookie cutter.
No problem.
The nuclear family home. I just want to the Patriots are the second most valuable franchise, or the third most valuable franchise in the NFL at almost $6 billion. So maybe that's not Belichick's $6 billion. Robert Kraft is a big part of that, whatever it may be. But Belichick's an asshole. He clearly just wants to run the roost. I mean, he won't even carry an offensive and defensive coordinator. But you can't not respect the guy, though, right? Like, I have a lot of respect for Bill Belichick and what he's done. And a lot of that was a lot of that foundation was built on him being in a position to make a lot of decisions too. And now, here's the thing. I'm going to kind of counter what I'm saying. Like, a lot of the stars align for New England over the Tom Brady area. Like, you just don't find, Julian Edelman's and Wes Welkers and, an almost faded out Randy Moss and Gronk and those guys. Like, those guys don't just fall in your lap always, or those guys just don't exist very often. You got a few like really, really good talents that fit perfectly into the scheme and it worked well for you. And clearly Tom Brady being Tom Brady. But Belichick's done a lot. He took a team with a rookie quarterback to the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's Bill Belichick. That's not anybody else. That's Bill Belichick. Mac Jones did not get the Patriots to the playoffs, right? Let's be very clear.
It's funny, and I don't want to keep rehashing this draft, but I just find it very interesting, especially retroactively. But like the fact that he was getting shit for his draft setup. Could you imagine what it would have been like if Belichick had like the Cliff Kingsbury setup?
That's exactly. I always think of those two being next to each other, right? Because Cliff Kingsbury has 20-foot windows out to
glass fireplace outside going in Arizona
to his infinity pool in a fucking drought state. Like,
well, apparently he like Airbnb'd that place out to like do the draft in.
I didn't know that. What a fucking bum. Do it in your basement like the rest of us.
Right.
Here's the thing. When you do
Get
a
on
fantasy
the Goodell
football
chair.
Yeah. When you're doing a fantasy football draft, you're not, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you do, but I've never been to a fantasy football draft where we've gotten together and be like, hey, let's get an Airbnb in. And
do you guys typically do a live draft?
So I'm in 2 leagues that do live drafts, in-person drafts.
I have never been a part of a live draft. And it's like one of the things that.
Really?
Well, like where everyone's in the same room.
Yeah. Oh man. Never.
So I have all my buddies. I have a league with my buddies from high school and I have a league with my buddies from college. I've done it where like 4 of us have been in the same room with like a laptop, but then it comes to the point where it's like, you only have so much bandwidth on the internet. And this was like a couple of years ago, you know what I mean? So it's like, because if you're doing it live, you don't really, you need the internet to like look up your guys and stuff like that. But not everyone is like doing, the same amount of data for being in the draft lobby and doing all their whatever. So no, I have never done that. But what's funny is because of COVID, we all realized, we can just do like a Zoom room.
Yeah.
And that's been really fun. And I'll still continuously do that where it's like, no, you're not all in the same room, but everybody's still like instantly reacting and being like, oh, fucking nice pick, Kevin. Like, you know what I mean? Like that kind of shit. What an idiot. He would have been there in 2 rounds.
I'm sorry. It's just, I mean,
it's getting to that time of year. I started doing like my first bit of fantasy prep today.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
so
get into it.
So here's the thing. And I'm assuming Bobby's still in the chat. So his brother is the commissioner for a fantasy football league that we're in together, right? Him, us two, his brother, his dad, some of his dad's friends.
How
and
many
Jordan
teams?
It's 10 teams.
10 teams. Okay.
Right? Is it
little,
or is it 12?
Little light.
No, it's 12. I think it's 12.
12 is the perfect number.
Yeah. So, and let me be clear. One person can't do it because the guy's
just looking
in Iowa.
Background. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. He's so bored. Look how bored this guy is. he's so used to me just spouting off all the time that he can sleep right through.
Honestly, what he's doing is what everyone does. We're like, dude, no one wants to hear about your fantasy league.
Yeah. God, shut up.
No, but I do.
Yeah. So other than Bobby's cousin who's in Iowa who cannot physically be there.
Right.
And before he wasn't in the league, we literally sit in Bobby's dad's basement with magazines and fucking sheets of paper with a top 200, top 300.
Oh, I love that.
And and drink beer. And Bobby has a big draft board that they do every year. He writes every single pick down. Yes. No, he's writing it in by hand.
I love it.
And there's nothing better than getting done with a draft and having 10 or 12 dudes just standing around a draft board just going, oh, yeah, that's it. That's my team.
That's the one.
That's the team that wins.
That's what we like to go ahead.
So, but it never fails that Bobby's like looking at the draft board after he's written over. He's like, God, I fucked up. Man, this is like every year he's like, I went on a flyer.
He's the only one. Everyone after their fantasy league does what we like to call the roster bait.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, oh, yeah, dude, look at that 6-round value right there. And there's like, oh.
It's so true. Like, but it's great because we sit around afterwards and like either Bobby's dad makes this like bomb ass homemade pizza that he makes, or he just gets like from this local spot in Fairfield, and we just sit around and drink beer for an additional 2 or 3 hours and act like we know everything that's going on with each other's lives. And then it's done. You shake hands. You thank Josh for being the commissioner. If you haven't given him your money yet, you give him the $20 that it is to play in, and then you're on your merry way. And it's one of my favorite days. And I didn't get to go down last year because Declan was still really young,
right?
Or he was fairly young when they had the draft. And it felt so weird to be sitting in my living room watching this draft happen and being like, oh, fuck, I wish I was there to see Bobby write down that I just took Lamar Jackson. Like,
yeah. You're phoning in your picks like it's 1984.
Well, yeah, I'm on Zoom and I'm like, oh, and Declan's like doing the draft with me, right? And like we're sitting together, and like that part was really cool. But like, there's nothing better than just sitting in a room and just drinking domestic beers.
Because Declan doesn't understand the 11th round value you just got,
right? Because right, I can't turn to him and be like, can't believe these fucking guys left Hawkinson in the 7th round. What a bunch of idiots.
He's a rookie, but he's gonna get some time. He's gonna get some run.
That was honestly Laviska Shenault and every single draft for me last year. He was my flyer for like 3 of the 5 leagues I was in. I'm like, I'm taking Shenault. He's gonna pan out, and he hurt me in so many ways.
I took Jalen Waddle in both of my leagues around before he was supposed to go because I was like, I want this guy. It worked. It worked out good for you. I mean, if you were in the playoff push late in the fantasy season, he worked out great for you. I don't want to go through it all. I won my league last year while trying to tank. So we have a keeper league, and it got towards like the end of the year, and I was like, I just don't have it. I'm like right on the playoff bubble, and I was like, honestly, even if I get in, like there's no chance I win. So let's just throw it in the tank. Let's pick up some draft capital for next year. I had already won the year previous, so I'm like, I'm already in the plus. It's fine. It's whatever. I sneak in as the 6th seed and manage to win it. And I swear to you not, I'll send you this fucking roster. It is easily the worst championship roster of all time. I'm talking Rex Burkhead, Hunter Renfrow. Like, those are starters. And I somehow won this league. And I'm not playing against a bunch of scrubs either. Like we've played for the last like 8 years. These guys are pretty good. Everyone's very competitive. And it's all guys I've known for like 20 years. So like nobody wants to let me win.
Right.
And it was the ugliest fucking roster you've ever seen. And I just got really lucky and I won and I got to hold on to the trophy and I've been rubbing it in everyone's face since.
That's also one of the most gratifying things about fantasy football is if your commissioner puts together like a trophy or something. Like I'm in a league with my brother-in-law that he's a commissioner of, and I have 2 tiny helmets that sit on my nightstand that show that I have been victorious 2 of 4 years I've been in the league.
Yeah.
And damn it, does it not feel incredible? This is year 5 in the league.
Placard on it, and
it's got the sticker on it that says like the year and when I won, except for I won back-to-back years, and it's the same year on both of them because the company messed it up. But I know it was back-to-back years. So yeah,
I love it.
Little tangent there, but we're getting into fantasy football season.
Fantasy season. We'll probably do an episode on fantasy. The problem is I'm in a league with Corey, so I can't let him in on all my secrets. But at the same time, like whatever, we got to let the fans know what's the good moves to do this year. And I'm a big fantasy football league. And Bobby, love this idea.
Dude, I'm in. So I'll take it a
put
step
something
further
up on our Facebook or do something. And if we can get 10 to 12 teams, I think this can be a reality.
As the generous degenerates that we are,
for charity,
it's a charity fantasy football league.
I love it.
Right. So
minus the half I win. I'm just kidding.
It's actually minus the half that I win, which then I will be gracious enough to donate to charity anyway. But here's the thing,
because I'm going to win it.
But it's just like I felt like we just had an office moment there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So Bobby, let's get the details together. I agree. It has to be a bare minimum 10. If it's less than 10, we can't do it.
I can't do it.
There's not enough people.
How many leagues do you do?
So last year I did 6. That was one too many. So I made
6. I do 2.
Okay. So hear me out. So I made a deal with Mary when we first started dating. And I explained to her that, fantasy at that point in time, I was in 3 leagues at that point in time, but she understood that like what I was doing was for money. And it was important more importantly, it's pride more than anything. Cause let's be real, you're willing to give away X amount of dollars a year. But when you win in one fantasy football league, you're the fucking cock of the walk. So you're doing it for pride. But I told her, I said, if I keep making more money than I'm putting in, I'm gonna try to add in, right? I'm gonna try to add teams in. Well, for the first time in my fantasy football history or fantasy sports history, I came in last place in the league last year.
Oh,
so
I've never done that. But
yeah,
still,
so
I'm due.
It's the first time. I did not make all of my money back that I put into all the leagues. So the last place, the league I was in last place in, I have to politely decline the invite this year whenever that comes. If I'm invited back, I don't know if the league will exist.
You're actually in relegation right now.
Yeah, so it's an old coworker of mine. It used to be a lot of CarMax people that were in the league together. Last year, we kind of scrambled to get everything together last minute. I thought I drafted really well. I had multiple people saying at the beginning of, you get the draft grade on Yahoo. It's like A+, and then everybody else is like a C. I won 2 games.
I never listened to the Yahoo draft grades.
I don't, but it was, there was a part of me like it, because when you're in fantasy, like you look forward to the playoffs and you're tallying close to where you land in your top 4 to 6 spots, however big your playoff section is, and you're like figuring out who you're going to match up against. So you start looking at the roster a little bit closer to see what the 2-week window is going to look like, right? And it's the first time where I've been in a league where I gave up after like week 9 because I started the year 0-8.
Yeah,
I've never done that before.
Well, it's funny you say the way that you describe that to your wife, Mary, because for my fiance, I've won the last 2 years in this league, and the way I sold her on it, not sold her because like whatever, I'm going to do it regardless. But as like I'm getting towards the finals, I'm like, we're in the middle of redoing our basement. And I'm like, if I win, we're going to use this money to buy the flooring for the basement. And right when she heard that, she's like, let's fucking go. And she's like watching the games with me. Like, what numbers are we rooting for? Like which players on which teams? And it's like 3 weeks of us just like going, like, let's fucking go. And then obviously we're getting married this year. So I was like, we can upgrade our flight package if we win. And we won, and I got her into it. And we're, we're having a good time.
Go. Dude.
That's how you sell the ladies.
That's fair. So my commitment to Mary the year before Declan was born, that all of the money that I made was going to go towards his room or whatever. And I bought, I want to say like 600 total diapers with my fantasy football earnings. So
there you go.
See, again, generous to generous. We're always doing things.
Yeah, I'm not going to go and just, buy myself something nice. No,
right.
It's what can we do for the team?
Right. Yeah. It's because there's no I in team, and I sure as shit need Mary to steer the boat for me because I'd be lost at sea.
Yeah.
So
right.
All right. Well, look, we're an hour and 20 minutes into this thing. I think we've covered pretty much everything we want to talk about tonight.
And obviously, I know we haven't touched on the Deshaun stuff, which is a really big story. I requested with the rest of the Rally Towel Sports family here that we can shelf this for tomorrow. So if you're looking for that, please tune in tomorrow. And the reason is not that I have any problem talking about it. We have a really big show coming up tomorrow. We're going to be debuting on the Bills Mafia Report feed. And I can only make a passionate statement once. So if I do it tonight, I'm going to just kind of repeat my own words tomorrow, and it won't feel the same. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Not to mention we're still waiting on whether or not the NFL will appeal it, which is an interesting wrinkle to this as well. So there might be some more information that comes out tomorrow that will make that very interesting. I know we wanted to play some Who the Fuck It Is tonight. I'm curious, though, if you want to talk about the Dolphins situation, though, as well, or are we saving that for tomorrow? We just kind of saving full football for tomorrow.
So let's save football for tomorrow, because I think that we're gonna. Here's the thing: tomorrow's going to be a long one, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be doing this for a while because this Watson thing. Again, we're gonna hold off on it, but we're all going to share our opinions on it.
I have some opinions.
Sure. So of the four of us, or for the four of us, this is the closest to home for Aaron. The other three of us are division rivals on the outside looking in, but
right.
We've already kind of started the conversation. We're continuing to ask ourselves in their group chat to wait until tomorrow to get through all of this, because we're all chomping at the bit. I'm sure you guys are really interested in hearing it too, but let's shelf it. I mean, look, if you want to I can at least get one Who the Fuck It Is out for tonight, and we can
go wherever you want. Yeah, don't matter. If we got to wrap up, then we're good.
So I say we get one. Here's how I want to do this one.
Here's the thing. I can't just do one. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know. It'll end up being 4, but at least I'm guaranteeing one. So what I would like to do tonight for the game that you and I tend to really hash it out over, and it's really challenged our friendship thus far, or strengthened it, however you want to look at it.
I look at strengthening
it. Is I want you to pick the sport tonight.
Just pick a sport. Oh, for Who the Fuck It Is?
Yeah, pick a sport. Because
I feel like basketball's the one. So like I still feel like it's basketball, but
okay, all right. So here's the thing. I'm doing this ice cold because I was going to prepare some names and I was going to really try to get into it.
We don't have to get into it. I don't want you
to. But I do, because what I like to do. I want the people to see what I do to get prepared for this. Right. So here's what I would like for you to do. I would like for you, if we're going to do basketball, give me a year and a team.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, you want me to give you a year and a team?
Year and a team.
I feel like that puts me at, okay. Let's say 2006. And let's say, I don't know, the Dallas Mavericks.
Perfect. So this is how this goes for me when I do this. I look at Mary and I say, "Give me a year." She gives me a year, and I say, "What's an NBA team that you think played well that year, or who do you think of when you think of that year for the NBA?" And then she usually gives me a city, and I roll with it, and it works great. That's how we got to Michael Olawakandian the second time we did this.
That's hilarious. The game I play with my Mary is I either name the team or the city, and she has to name me the team. And then we'll do it by sport. Because she did not care for sports at all before we first met. Actually, I have can I tell you a really funny story real quick?
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
So when we first started, literally really just first started dating, I invite her over to my house to watch a Browns game. And for her, she's like, I don't really give a shit about the Browns, but I really like this guy and he seems to like the Browns. I'll go over. And she doesn't hate football. She likes the camaraderie around it. People get together, have some drinks, make some food. That part she's all on board with. That's just a party. So her sister is definitely more of a Browns fan, at least than she was. She's a big one now, just by osmosis. But right. She texts her sister and is just like, "Hey, can I borrow a brown shirt or something?" And the first thing her sister texts back is, "Who's the boy?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Like she hadn't told her family yet. Like they were, like I think that's the funniest thing ever.
And look at you now. You're married to Mary, and I can tell you with great confidence, it's smooth sailing from here.
There it is. We're good.
All
We're
right.
golden.
All right. So I'm ready if you're ready.
I'm ready.
All right. So former Dallas Maverick, 76er, and New Jersey Nets player.
Okay.
Was drafted in 1997 with the second pick overall in the draft and is the leading scorer for the WAC all time.
What year did I say? 2006?
You said 2006. And
2006.
Actually, here's the thing is that this was this guy's last year in the NBA.
Right. And what were the teams you said? I'm sorry.
So he played drafted by the Nets.
Drafted by the Nets.
I'm sorry. He was drafted by the Sixers, traded to the Nets. And that's where the good chunk of his best years were. His rookie year, really like rookie year to 2000, he was really, really good. And then he spent some time in Philadelphia, New York, Milwaukee, and then finished his career as a Dallas Maverick. I can't give you the school because it gives the player away. But I can tell you that he is the all-time leading scorer in the Western Athletic Conference.
Keith Van Horn?
It's Keith Van Horn, yes. So at first I was like, oh, where's long white socks? Keith Van Horn. Everybody knows
he's white.
he's a white. But here's the thing. I was gonna go the Eric Dampier route, but I saw Keith Van Horn's name on the list, and I was like,
have to do it.
Yeah,
you know what I literally was about to ask you was he referred to by three names? Because I was like, is it Keith Van Horn or Nick Van Exel?
Great. Also great name drop. Former Cincinnati Bearcat, Nick Van Exel, who I got to meet at a Frisch's in Cincinnati. Fun fact.
Wow.
They were retiring his number that day at a Bearcats game. And I had been in Clifton doing some partying, and Nick Van Exel was there. And I got to meet him. It was pretty cool. All right. Let's do one more. Because I can't.
I can give you one too.
Okay.
You want to go?
Yeah.
Okay. This person was originally drafted by the Vancouver Grizzlies in the 1997 NBA draft as the 4th overall pick. He's probably best known for his time with the Washington Wizards, but he played for Vancouver, Sacramento, Portland, Seattle, Washington, New Orleans, and Philadelphia. He went to the Bowling Green State University. And again, he was drafted 4th overall in 1997.
Ooh. Say the teams one more time for me.
Drafted by the Vancouver Grizzlies. Played then with the San Antonio Spurs, the Portland Trail Blazers, the Seattle Supersonics, the Washington Wizards, the New Orleans Hornets, and the Philadelphia 76ers. That was from a stretch between 1997 to 2011. He was also a point guard.
Ooh.
Point guard, shooting guard.
Okay. All right. So
the big one here, I had to do it because Bowling Green. 4th overall out of Bowling Green.
Antonio Daniels.
Yeah, let's go.
So here's the thing. I initially, when you were going through that, I was like, is he about to just give me Mike Bibby like a layup?
No.
And then you're like, they went to Bowling Green. I'm like, All right, but so I remember Antonio Daniels more as like. So this is how I got to this answer. So again, I used to collect basketball cards, and every year, sometime around my birthday, or shortly after my birthday, I would get the box of the regular NBA cards that had all the draft picks with like in the suits, right? They get the first photo after they get drafted. And So Antonio Daniels on his rookie card, I'm pretty sure they gave him an orange backdrop.
Yeah.
Okay. Because he went to Bowling Green.
So because he went to Bowling Green.
That's what I think of when I think of him. But then I think like, all right, an NBA Live, who would have been like a point guard that was obscure that was on like the Wizards, and it couldn't have been Mitch Richmond because he was already gone by then. He was on the Kings by then. So then that's how I trickled down. Like you dig deep into the name.
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have said best known for his time with the Wizards, but also he played 4 seasons there.
Yeah,
and I remember him best as from the Wizards.
Yeah, that's a good one, man.
That's
the thing.
Point.
Like, it either I played so much NBA Live as a kid that like I just played with every team, and I would just put the worst roster out on. Antonio Daniels wasn't a guy that was like an 80 overall. He was like a 65, right? When he was
right.
You threw him out there, and with like George Mirasan or something like that.
Oh God, George Mirasan.
Uh-oh. Carp says one more. He wants one more.
I tell you what, you do one, I'll do one. Because it's not fair that you don't get to play. And I'll get you a player as well.
Okay.
Is that fair?
I'm here for it, buddy. I'm here for it. All right. Let's see. I'm gonna do one myself here. Good night, Bobby. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. We will see you tomorrow because you'll be on here with us.
Hell yeah, we will.
All right. I think I got one.
Okay.
Let me just let me get my facts together here. Former national champion for Syracuse.
Okay.
Was drafted by the Memphis Grizzlies in 2005 with the 19th overall pick.
Hakeem Warwick.
It is absolutely Hakeem Warwick.
Yeah. Let's go!
Nice. That was excellent.
You want to know how I know that one?
Because it was either going to be Melo, Warwick,
well, no, it couldn't have been. Not in college. Or I'm sorry, not with the Grizzlies.
Right.
National championship. So that was what I believe 2003 national championship. So my dad had like an office bracket, and it was like, $20 buy-in, whatever, but it was same thing for charity, but whoever won got like a gift card or whatever. So he's like, well, we'll do 4 for our family. And my sister just refused to fill one out. So I'm like, I don't know, 2003, I'm in like 6th grade or something like that.
Yeah, it's like 12, 13.
Yeah, and he's like, Aaron, just fill out a 4th one or the 2nd one, and we'll put it in as the dog. And I was like, all right, great. And I had Syracuse winning both of them. And I actually, in one of them, I think it was the dog one, of course, I had Syracuse against Kansas. And so I just really, really vividly remember that year. So Hakeem Warwick, you had no idea, but that was just a layup.
Who would have thought Hakeem Warwick would just be a tagged lifetime memory for you? just obscurity, just a tagged player. I get it. Like there are certain people in my life. That's how like Doug Christie is for me, because I used to always play with the Kings all the time when I played NBA Live, and I would always shoot with him and Peja because they were the best 3-point shooters. And I never gave the ball to Chris Webber.
Love it.
Don't
I love it. That was a really good one, though. That really was. It just, that was like right in my crosshairs.
You're ready.
I love it.
You're ready.
All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
This is a player that played 14 years in the NBA. However, he was undrafted. He started his career with the Charlotte Hornets in 1998. Probably best known for his time with the Sacramento Kings. He stood a miraculous 6'11", and he played at Purdue. I can give you some more too. That might have been a little vague. The undrafted thing might hurt. He was also a 2-time All-Star at the center position. The career ranges from 1998 to 2012. Todd, who the fuck it is?
Who all did he play for? Or is that going to give it away?
No, I don't think so. And that's fair.
Okay, before you tell me, is it Brad Miller?
Yes, it's Brad Miller.
Let's go.
Let's go.
I think of Brad Miller as a pacer, personally, but you're right. His best years were in Sacramento.
Yeah. Well, also, when I say best known for, it's usually played the most seasons with.
Yeah.
You're right, though, because that was his first All-Star appearance, but he only played 2 seasons in Indiana.
He did, but he had him and Jermaine O'Neal. That was post Reggie era.
Yeah.
Was when Brad Miller was there, right? It was like 2005, 2006.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I remember he was. He must not have ever sniffed the floor, but he was on the Cavs for a little bit. But he never played, so he doesn't register anytime.
I love the.
Can we just take a bow for a second? We just went 4 for 4.
Hell yeah, we did. Here, hold on.
Ooh, Ryan just threw one in the chat. Should we team up here?
Yeah.
1999, first round pick, 13th overall from Duke, drafted by the Magic. Gonna need a little more than that, but Magic 99, so that would be Duke. I don't have anything on that, but Ryan, if you want to throw another clue in there, we'll listen to it.
Yeah, I need more than that.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't Hakeem Warwick.
Oh man. Here's the thing.
This is my favorite invention of a game ever. I just want you to know. It ended with the Pistons in 2013.
Drafted by the Magic. Did he play for the Magic? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, right. Because sometimes the teams that are like drafted by it's because their rights got traded on draft night, and that doesn't always line up. Okay, 2013 Pistons, though. Let's think about it. So that is like the what was his name? Like Lindsey Hunter, or
the point guard.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's like that era. Played with the Clippers from 2002.
Oh, it's Corey Maggette. It's got to be Corey Maggette.
Is it? Oh, we. That's so funny because I gave you that one like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and you said most notoriously known for his time playing for the Clippers from 2000 to 2008.
Yeah,
and he's a
played for the Bobcats.
Yeah.
Actually, the one of the clues I gave you was a notorious draft story where he was good, like he was fine, especially for the draft, but the guy was just sculpted like a Greek god, and his agent told him to do the combine with his shirt off.
Yep.
And he's like, it helped him get drafted like 10 spots earlier.
Yeah, because he was like 6'8", 240.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was like fucking had like an 8-pack.
Yeah.
That's great. Good job, Ryan.
Dude, great.
You know what's hilarious though? After I started to learn the game, and Ryan, it's okay that you weren't on that one, but we do expect you to listen every single time that we're on. And frankly, it's unacceptable.
Yeah. Whatever you think you're going to do that day, stop it.
But that's hilarious because after I started to like kind of understand like, okay, the level of player that we're really going for, I was like, oh, I'm going to do Corey Maggette. And that's funny that I gave those clues and I couldn't get it.
Well, here's the thing is I didn't know that he was drafted by the Magic.
I didn't either.
I very specifically think of him only as a Clipper. Like the Bobcat thing.
I remember him as a Bob.
Because here's the thing.
Ahead.
When he was on the Bobcats, he was there like probably right before they switched back to the Hornets, right? Because that was like 2011, 2012 when they went back to the Hornets?
Don't know. I don't know that. I don't think so. Because the Hornets, remember the Hornets had to move to Oklahoma City during Katrina, which was 2003. They moved the Hornets to I don't know.
Okay.
I don't
know. So 88 to 2002, they were the Hornets.
Or 2005, that would have been, but yeah.
Yeah. So then from 04 to 14, they were the Bobcats. So 2014-15 season was when they went back to being the Hornets. Here's the thing. I've been holding out. First overall pick in the 1999 draft. That's Elton Brand, right?
That sounds right.
Because 99 was the... Yeah, it's Elton Brand. It has to be. Because I think the Clippers drafted...
You got it. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought you right when you said that. I thought you were right. Ryan's all on the Clipper train. He's like, I know I'm going to get these guys. Well, late 90s, early 2000s Clippers.
Yeah, because they were hot dog shit. But that's the thing is that they had all these first round picks because they had drafted Oliver Candy in 97.
Yeah.
And then 98. And then they drafted Elton Brand the next year because they were still one of the worst teams in the NBA.
Yeah.
And then was Maggette? Maggette was so he didn't get drafted by the Clippers. I think that he was like he
didn't get drafted there, but I'm just saying like doing a deep dive on like early 2000s Clippers rosters is a good idea for this game is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Look, I got to tell you that's probably a sweet spot for me cuz that was my peak of collecting basketball cards.
Todd doesn't have a blind spot in this game, guys.
Well, also again, just to be very clear, the times where kids are supposed to do normal stuff like be outside and like hang out with their friends, I was literally sitting in my room flipping through like the books, the binders with the sleeves of basketball cards, being like, "Oh, Corliss Williamson, he went to Arkansas," and then flipping it over and be like, "He did go to Arkansas." Like that was the games. Those are the types of games I was playing.
So it's so funny because, and I know we're going to wrap up here soon. I don't want to go too long, but it's just so funny because you're much better at this game than I am, but I also think I'm a worthy opponent for you.
Here's the thing. I consider you an adversary now in this game because I personally think that and again, Tez, what up, buddy? You're catching the bear. You catch the bare end of the stream where I'm giving some gratitude to Aaron here before we wrap up.
Tez, tune in tomorrow. We got a big show.
Yeah, Tez, make sure you're here at 8:30 tomorrow. 7:30 your time. I would try to get in here probably just a little before that so you just don't miss anything. But who didn't play their first 3 seasons? That's Manu Ginobili.
Yeah, he was an overseas stash. Nice job.
Yeah. But I think if we played this game tomorrow, you would still be the victor of the guessing between the three.
Well, between fucking Bobby and Corey, that's no doubt. But it's interesting. No, but it's interesting how you absorb that knowledge. Yours is basketball cards. Mine was like playing NBA Live 03 or like playing. Sure. I don't describe myself as a gamer, but I love playing sports video games. And like we were saying, or you've commented tonight and on other podcasts, like I just love the business side of sports. So like even when I'm playing like sports video games, I simulate a lot and I'm fucking working trades and like, free agents and like making deals and doing shit like that. So you constantly see the player bio. So it's like, you know, Hakeem Warwick, Syracuse, or, you know, Keith Van Horn, you know, like shit like that. So yeah, exactly. So it's just like, that's how I learned all these names and shit.
I'm right there with you. Because here's the thing, like,
Ryan, great job tonight. Great job tonight.
Thank you, sir. Also, I won't take that personal, but I love you too. And I appreciate you stopping in and driving the last 30 minutes.
We'll see you tomorrow, Ryan.
It's dope. But if you're a sports gamer or if you're playing sports video games as a teenager when you are shaping yourself, right, as a person and you're trying to figure out like
because you have summers off.
Yeah. That's what I did too, right? So I had the basketball cards I was flipping through when I was a kid, but then when I got to like 11 or 12, 13, it was playing NBA Live 04, 05, and then getting into the franchise mode or the dynasty at that point in time was what it was called. And then just figuring out how to get a team full of Wildcats, right? So like that's how it started for me. Was like as a Kentucky fan, like I'm going to try to get every single Kentucky Wildcat that's including Nazir Muhammad at that point in time. I want him on my roster so I can have him and Tayshaun Prince and Tony Delk. Like those guys are on the roster together. And then it's like, well, I wonder how many schools I could do that for without having to like look super hard, right? So then like the easiest one is like, all right, well then let's do like Kansas, Arizona at that point in time because they were churning out like Bibby and Stoudemire and those guys were coming year over year out of Arizona. So then then you dig deeper and deeper, like, all right, well, now I'm going to do a Big Ten team. At least that's what I did. And I'm fucking weird. And I turned out okay, but like, that's the kind of stuff that I was doing too. So I think that's why you and I do so well in this game because we are.
You have a photographic memory, don't you?
I do. Yeah.
I'm very similar in that way too. Like
so
if I see something once or twice, I can commit it to memory.
Yep. And
I will forget someone's name 40 seconds after meeting them.
So I'm actually the exact opposite of that. I could put a name to a face. I would match myself with anybody. I've even been the one on the awkward end of being like, "Hey man, what's up?" And then being like, "Nope." Like, well, remember this time at this place? And like they're like,
"Yeah,
nope."
I mean, like when I first meet someone, we'll be like watching a movie and I can name the actor. Like I'm very good at like face to name like that, or I'm oddly good at voice. So. You've seen my profile picture on Twitter. We love BoJack Horseman. There's so many voice cameos in that, and we'll just be like watching it, and I'll be like, "Oh, that's so and so." Like just hearing their voice, I'll be like, "Oh, that's Stephen Colbert. That's John Krasinski. That's you know what I mean." Like, and I can just nail it. Oh, that's Zach Braff. That's like, I can nail it like that. And then she'll like Google it and be like, "You son of a bitch."
Carp came in here with one more. He's just itching. He's
itching, and I get it. 99, 29th overall by the Spurs, and his first game in the NBA was for the Hawks in 2092. So I don't know. I was kidding, 2002.
It has to be a foreign guy.
Well, right? Yeah. And I'm trying to think of foreign guys for the Hawks, early 2000s. Nothing really coming to mind just yet.
He might have hit my blind spot. The Hawks aren't a team I'm super well versed in.
No. I remember getting the Josh Childress ones from you. That was nice, but
yeah. That's just because I said something about him having a beautiful ass.
No, I got it before then. You were like my next clue was the big fro. It was because you said Hawks and Stanford. I knew.
Drafted out of high school, but didn't play until 2002 after he got drafted.
I don't know. Here's the thing: is like if this is just some random guy who played like 6 years in the NBA, like I don't know. 6'10", 235.
Did Dwight Howard start?
No. I mean, that's Magic. He was also
that's the Magic.
He
played for the Hawks though,
and he was the last guy to get drafted before the one and done rule.
Yeah, he was a part of that last year, right?
Yeah, and then the next year was the Greg Oden Durant. Well, what would have? Yeah. It would
6'10",
have
235 drafted.
this one's hurting my brain. Drafted out of high school. I mean, the only thing I can guess for 2002 would be like Josh Smith, but that's not right because I think he was like 2005.
I think he was legitimately the last person that got drafted out of high school.
All right, well, I'm gonna go with Josh Smith. But that would be crazy if he was.
No,
because he was drafted out of high school. You're right.
He was. I think 05 was the last name is right. Smith. Oh.
No, it's not Joe Smith because he was number 1 overall. And that would have been.
Yeah, he played college basketball.
Last
too.
name is right. Well, hey, I hit it on the most common last name in the United States, so that's good.
I honestly have no idea. You could give me a name right now.
Not Stromile Swift, is it?
No, he went to LSU.
I know. We did that one.
You love Stromile Swift.
I know.
Leon, I would have never.
See, I don't even know who that is. Like,
I don't either. You hit my blind spot.
There you go. Congratulations, Ryan. You're tonight's winner.
Right now,
yeah.
Carp is just sitting there right before, like, I can't leave this without just burning this guy.
I appreciate it.
He's hurt me too. And here's the thing. I have to get better now.
Here's the thing. And
so somebody call my job.
We might have to do a brief one of these tomorrow just to let the Mafia gang know.
I think
it's fun games we like to do.
Super hyped, absolute bust, played overseas. Thank you.
Well, no wonder we didn't get it.
Thank you for reaffirming me that I'm not like I'm losing touch here because I still know who this. All right,
let's wrap this up, Todd.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in with Aaron and us tonight. Again, make sure you are here tomorrow, 8:30.
Need you guys.
It's going to be an absolute banger. We have, of course, we're going to be talking to Deshaun Watson. We have something else planned that's going to be a lot of fun for us. It's going to be a really good introduction to the Mafia sports family to see kind of who we are at Rally Towel Sports. So make sure you're tuning in tomorrow. Make sure you have plenty of beer sitting right next to you because you're going to need them after because it's going to be exhausting when we get
preferably maybe light beers, Todd.
Maybe light beers. We'll see.
Maybe light beers. I don't know.
We'll see.
It'll be a long night.
But Aaron, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thanks,
and
Todd.
We will see you all tomorrow.
I'll touch on that tomorrow, Ryan. I can't wait to see you.
All right. See you guys.
Buddy.